How do I get into the flow state? Ego has used this diagram to explain how we can reach the flow state. This made me wonder whether the flow state is just an anime power or a real power. After a long search, I came to the conclusion that the flow state is a scientific thing. When a person enters this state, their sensory abilities develop and their senses become like an animal. So I developed this cycle that will help you get into the flow state. The flow state is what got the whole stadium chanting Isagi's name. And it's what got the whole stadium excited when Bachira dribbled and when Rin and Shidou scored. And I promise you, if you apply every word in this video, you will enter the flow state and do something that only 1% of people do. The flow state is about feelings. It's like you feel you are in another world. Everything moves slowly, and your instincts become like animals. When you play football, you no longer feel stressed anymore. You will not hear the fan's voice. You will only see one thing, and when you see it, your pupils will dilate. When the ball reaches you, you will feel that it is a part of your body, and your mind will make the right decisions in a split second. You will feel like nothing can stop you. Look at Rin's eyes. They are like the eyes of a monster. When you enter the flow state, you will hear a voice inside you telling you what to do. No one can do great things without activating the flow state. Everything creative that I have seen in this world has been done by people who have been able to get into the flow state. From the discovery of electricity to Cristiano Ronaldo's scissor kick, all the people behind these achievements were in the flow state. And yeah, for me, Cristiano's goal is more creative than the discovery of electricity. So it's impossible to be in the 1% of the world without knowing the steps that will get you into the flow state. Don't worry, because this cycle will tell you exactly how to get into the flow state. In the flow state, all human instincts improve, and he becomes like an animal, so his instincts become 7 times more active than normal human instincts. You might think I'm joking, but actually experiments were done on Messi's brain. They found that Messi's brain has the ability to interact with his nervous system faster than a normal human. To make the picture clearer for you, this is how Messi sees the pitch when he is in a flow state. Everything that goes on slows down in his eyes. Even when Bachira is in the flow state and dribbling the players, he sees the pitch like Messi. Now let me explain the flow diagram of ego. Imagine if the game was not against the Japanese under-20 team, but against a weak high school team. So it's impossible to see Rin's face change like that, or Shidou getting excited and jumping to that extent and scoring a fantastic goal. Even Isagi would not get into the flow state and see him score that amazing goal that makes everyone in the stadium scream and call his name. So if the challenge is too easy, it's impossible to get into the flow state. And if it's too difficult, you will feel extremely tense and helpless. The best example of this is the Blue Lock team playing against the World Stars. They were not able to do anything at all because the challenge was difficult for them and beyond their capabilities. Think of it like this. If something is too easy, you get bored. There is no challenge, so your brain shuts down. But if it's too hard, you feel anxious or even paralyzed by the pressure. The struggle phase. And struggle is not a sign of failure, but indicates that your brain is preparing for greatness. When you are in this phase, your brain is basically saying, wait, what's going on here? Your brain starts to feel stressed, and to face this stress, you try to find a solution to the problem. Just like Rin did at the beginning of the fight when he felt helpless against Sae, and every time he tried to stop him, he failed. After every attempt and struggle by Rin to get out of Sae's shadow, he loses. His brain starts to make him feel anxious. But don't worry, this anxiety is good for you, because your brain is taking the task seriously. During this phase, your body releases stress hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline, and therefore your mind expands, grows, and prepares for something bigger. And then you enter the second phase, release. For a moment, Rin wanted to give up, but then a lot of emotions came to his mind. He realized that he had to release himself from the idea of being Sae's little brother, and free himself from being a tool used by Isagi to achieve his own goals. He realized that he had to kill the boy inside him and be reborn. He released himself from his thoughts and turned them into anger. He turned the struggle he felt into energy that made his brain 7 times more powerful than normal. This led Rin to the third stage, the flow stage. In the flow stage, a person's brain begins to increase its sensory abilities, his focus increases supernaturally, his eyes widen, and he sees the world moving slowly, which allows the brain to analyze the situation faster. So how does this cycle help me in my life to enter the flow state? For example, let's say you have an exam tomorrow, and you haven't studied anything for this exam. At first, you have to struggle with studying. Then you will feel stressed because the subject is long and you are unable to understand the information. Then you will enter the release phase. You will realize that if you don't study and finish the subject now, you will remain living in a cycle of failure. This feeling begins that tells you that it is enough. I must get out of this cycle that I am living in. Then after that, you will enter the flow state. The most important advice is to remove all distractions, because if you get out of the flow state, you will have to repeat the cycle from the beginning. I think there is something greater than the normal flow, and that is the peak flow. To be honest, I do not know how a person can reach the peak flow, but I do know that there is something called the peak flow, that goal that Messi scored. It's not something a normal flow can achieve. Messi, encara 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 Messi, gol. Because if we told Messi to do it again, it would be impossible for him to do it with the same skill and beauty as he did. Or that scissor kick goal from Cristiano, he can't repeat the goal in the same way. I think when a person gets into the flow more than once, their mind starts to adapt to that state, and when the normal flow is not enough, the person enters the absolute greatness that I call the peak flow. Not everyone can enter the peak flow, maybe only a few can do it, and maybe once or twice in their life. To be honest, it's difficult to get into the flow state, but once you do, try to memorize those feelings well, and every time you want to get into the flow state, try to bring up these feelings again. It will get easier over time. Maybe you have entered the flow state before and did not know it. When you play video games, you may feel like everything comes easy to you, and you hear a voice inside you telling you where to go and what to do. I'm sure some of you have entered the flow state before. I want you guys to tell me about your first experience where you entered the flow state and how it made you feel, maybe while you were studying, playing football, or playing video games. If everyone writes about their experiences in the comments, I'm sure we will learn from them. As I told you before, behind everything great that we see in this world, it is the flow state. Peace.